All right, 9.3, do I hear a motion to approve the second reading of policy GCF and administrative rule GCFR, professional staff hiring?
I could make this motion, but I have an amendment as well. Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the second reading of policy GCF, professional staff hiring, and GCFR, administrative rule, as presented by administration, with amendments from Jada.
All right, we'll get the motion on the table first. Is there a second? The motion?
Second.
Thank you. All right. So, board, is it any discussion? Mr. Stacy, do you want to
So basically,
fill us in, and then we'll.
right. So basically, policy GCF and GCFR are replacing existing policies. It's to update the identify hiring as a function of human resources, and it talks about hiring practices, et cetera. Last month, we had some discussion, and one of the things that's addressed in this policy is the posting of vacancies. And I think that's a conversation that the board has elected to have this evening. I did contact our attorney, Alan Smith, and I'll just read to you what he told me with regards to what we would do with regards to posting vacant positions, and then y'all can have your conversation. While good personnel policies provide that vacant positions generally will be posted and advertised, there can be circumstances where that is not appropriate. As a result, it is prudent to provide that while positions generally will be advertised, there can be occasions where that is not required. For example, the district may have an internal candidate who would be best for a particular position. In that case, the district should have the discretion to forego the advertising of the position and simply employ the internal candidate for the vacant position. There wouldn't be any need to advertise the position, screen and interview applicants, et cetera, if the district already knows who it intends to place in the vacant position. In fact, doing so could create liability claims by applicants who applied and did not receive the job. The district also could need to move quickly after an unexpected departure to fill a position, and posting the vacancy, et cetera, can unnecessarily slow down the process of filling an open job. The district also could have legitimate reasons to reassign a current employee into another vacant position. If so, it would not be practical to advertise that vacant job. This is a tough job market. The district wants to have the flexibility to move quickly. Requiring an absolute rule of always advertising every vacant position would limit that flexibility and could prevent the district from obtaining the best available candidate. It is our experience, this is the attorney speaking, most vacancies do get posted and advertised. However, it is prudent for district policy to allow some discretion and flexibility. And I will tell you that we do try to post every position, and we have really upped our process that we use. I think Dr. Powers alluded to this earlier. I mean, we have, we score, like I was telling you with White Knoll High School, they had 63 applicants. They scored every single resume that came in. So we have, when we post a position, we put preferred qualifications, required qualifications, and then we go through and we give points for all those preferred qualifications to try to look at the resumes and rank the candidates that have applied. Once we do that, then we go back through and interview those candidates, and then we score those interviews. We've got a hiring guide now that we use, and it's pretty detailed, and we try to do that especially for our administrative type positions. But there could be on an occasion where you have someone, as Alan said, where, you know, we kind of groomed this person for the position. We've spent a lot of time putting some, effort into preparing them for the next step. And so we would want to promote from within, and the superintendent would want that flexibility. So I get it, and my position would be that we post every position. It would be an exception not to post a position. And at that point, I think it would be the board's right to question, why did you not post that position? And we would be able to articulate that rationale. But I do think that the policy would allow for some flexibility.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stacy.
I wish I had all that in writing ahead of time, but I'll try to address the couple of points that I did write down. The last thing you said was you spent a lot of time grooming someone from within, And so the superintendent may want to promote that person. Well, we just signed the ethical principles from the School Board Association that says we agree to hire the most qualified person for a position. So what you're telling me is if you post for this job and someone more qualified comes in, it would be our duty to hire that person. But you may not want to post it because you've groomed someone from within. Our role as a board is just to hire the most qualified person. And in order to get the most qualified person, we need to advertise the job. This is just how I feel. You mentioned liability claims by someone that did not get the job as a reason to not post it. Well, that could happen at any point in time. You know, I mean, you post it, they don't get it, people could sue for anything. So I'm just looking at the hiring and recruiting policies and on GCER, which I know we're getting to in a minute, but that kind of overlaps with the professional staff hiring policy, the administrative rule there. And in that administrative rule, it says, and this is for staff recruitment, that the Chief Human Resources Officer or his or her designee will write and publish all job vacancy announcements and advertisements and post them on the district's job posting website for at least 5 calendar days. So when you're recruiting, you're already posting. So in my opinion, I mean, if you can stand behind your recommendation to the board, it should be with or without other applicants. So I make a motion to amend policy GCF to read, the Chief Human Resources Officer, his or her designee, will write and publish all job vacancy announcements, advertisements, and post them on the district's job posting website for at least 5 calendar days.
All right, Ms. Garris has made a motion for an amendment. Is there a second for that motion? All right, thank you, Dr. Guyton. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the amendment, which is to add, basically, Ms. Garris, make sure I got this right, that one sentence from GCE into the policy that we're currently discussing, GCF. Is that what you were proposing?
Yes. So on professional staff hiring policy GCF, the last paragraph, the first sentence where it says the Chief Human Resource Officer will generally advertise all job vacancies within the district when appropriate, unless otherwise determined by the superintendent or his or her designee. I would like that replaced with the administrative rule GCE, the paragraph for the last one.
Okay. All right. Board, is there any conversation about the amendment? Is everybody,
I'll just add in that Mrs. Garris makes a good point, and I don't disagree with it. I do think that the way it has been conducted up until now, that you're saving people time, frustration, and money if we have someone inside that we want to put in that position. But Ms. Garris, again, does make a valid point.
anyone else? Any other conversation?
I guess, but what we're hearing from our Chief Human Resources Officer and our superintendent is the way the policy's written is the way they prefer. So again, I would be careful, because again, our job is governance, and again, I would defer to the superintendent and his or her leadership team in this space.
Mr. Stacy, can you read the line from the attorney again that said the example of the best? What was that? Well, good luck, because I got like 17 papers spread. It was like the first example the attorney gave, for example. And certainly I appreciate, our attorney providing the insight there. To me, it almost feels like a little bit of a circular argument, in that, if you think you have the best, then the best is gonna stand up to, any other applicant. And while it is a process to go through that, to me, it probably does reveal it does shine the most light, I guess. I don't think there's anything to be lost from that. I'll tell you, even within my business, I've run into the same issue. We've had this conversation multiple times with my HR director. It's like, look, why can't I just promote somebody? I've identified this as the person. I think they're going to be the best person for the job. And the argument has always been back to me, well, they're still going to be the best person for the job. You're just given ample opportunity for multiple applicants. And quite frankly, you may learn things about other people that you didn't know who apply. And I will say that has actually turned out to be true. I have learned that there were some people who I never really would have thought of as a leadership position who have applied, and it's been like, wow, okay, this is something to grow with. So I guess that would be my argument back to not generally, but advertising all job vacancies, is that it does, there's only upside to it. I don't really see a downside, or at least I have difficulty.
So the only downside to that might be timing. So let's say somebody walked in here in June and said, I've decided to retire, and I'm gonna retire June 30th. And you already have somebody that's been put in that position, that you've been working to, train. At that point, it might slow the process down. You might need that person in that role to be able to make some decisions to keep the district moving forward. So that's the only, I'm with you. I think 90% of the time, better, we would advertise a position. We would look for a replacement person. We'd go through that whole process. But there could be times during the year where you would want some flexibility and some latitude. And again, I think it comes back to, if we bring somebody to you in an administrative position and for your recommendation, and you don't feel like we've done our due diligence in finding the person, then I think it's your right at that point to say, look, I think we're not going to approve this person at this time. We want you to go through this process if that's what you feel like needs to happen.
Mr. Stacy, how many people did we hire last fiscal year or this fiscal year? Isn't it around 800 people or something?
We generally hire about 350 people a year, and all of those are not certified. Those are support staff, substitute, the whole group.
But of the job type we're talking about having to post.
As far as certified positions, I want to say we hired 223 teachers last year.
So again, off the top of your head, how many of those did we not post? And because we had an internal candidate, we were grooming for that.
I don't know that we didn't not post any positions last year.
So
now,
it's a rare event, is where I'm going.
It's more rare now than it used to be.
But it still happens.
It happens.
And that's why I'd like a policy to cover it. And you also make a good point when you say, what if someone's retiring and you have someone groomed for that position? Well, here's an excellent idea. You put the person that you thought you wanted in that position, and you tell them you're here temporarily until we list the job, go through the interview process, and you might even find something out along the way that you thought this person was going to be wonderful, but then they don't cut it. So to me, that's an added benefit of posting every job.
See, and I think the flaw in that procedure is someone steps out of the job that they currently have into this temporary position that's contingent on them then being successful through the interview process. So I think that's a little bit of a falling off the cliff scenario for an employee that might take that contingent position. I have a question, Mr. Stacy, and I don't want to get bogged down in this, but so the policy that we're looking at, first of all, I have a question for you. The GCE and GCF, those are, in your opinion, why do we have those as separate policies?
One relates to hiring and one relates to recruiting. Isn't that right? let me make sure I'm right.
Yes, that's the titles, but they're very similar. And I understand you wanting to,
They're similar, they are similar, and we talk about how we go about recruiting for a particular position and the kinds of things we would do to recruit for that position. The other one goes to what the processes are to actually bring them on board. I mean, these are model school board policies that we try to follow when we work forward.
and that goes to my next question. We actually already have policy GCF in our policy.
We do.
So this model policy that we are attempting with the red lines and potential amendments will supplant the current GCF?
If it's approved tonight, it'll replace the current GCF.
And I guess I'm going to ask your opinion. Does this make GCF better for you from a hiring perspective?
In our opinion, it makes it better. That's why we made the changes. And again, I took it to the attorney. The attorney reviewed it, and he feels like it makes it better. And so that's why we brought it to you.
So I mean, as the person that eats, sleeps, lives, and breathes this policy,
I hear your concerns with not posting positions. And I share those concerns. I don't want to not post a position and just, arbitrarily put somebody in a position. I want to get the best person. And, but I do think that there might be an opportunity, a time, when it would be in Dr. Little's or whoever the superintendent might be at the time, it would be in their best interest to be able to make some of those decisions within the confines of the policies. And so I don't want to close that door. I think what I've heard Dr. Little say to me and what we've talked back and forth about is that we want to post our positions. We want to advertise to get the best candidate. He's charged us to improve our hiring guidelines. So now we have this guideline for hiring that we're using, which I kind of addressed early on. I mean, we are doing a lot of things to improve our practices. I just don't know that we want to shut the door totally to just not giving the superintendent some flexibility. And I think that's the position that our attorneys have. I think that's the position that a lot of school districts across the state have. And that really is the position of the School Boards Association. But I hear you.
okay, all right. So we have an amendment on the table to add the sentence, the Chief Human Resources Officer or his designee will write and publish all job vacancy announcement advertisements and post them on the district's job posting website at least 5 calendar days, for at least 5 calendar days. Add that to the GCF policy as proposed. Is that correct, Ms. Garris?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so that is the amendment that is on the table.
You would remove that sentence in red in the last paragraph of GCF?
So remove the paragraph, the sentence that has the word generally in it and replace it with the sentence that has the 5 days.
Correct.
Okay. Is everybody clear on that? All right, so the amendment is on the table. All in favor of the amendment as proposed by Ms. Garris, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
All right. All right. I believe, all in favor, please raise your hand.
So, quick question,
Yes.
because I'm just processing all of this information that we've been presented. Is there like an urgency in approving this tonight? Like, I feel like I'm thinking through questions. I don't know.
So can I just say, I don't think that would be a problem if we put this to, next board meeting. I mean, we're going to go with the practices the way you have them right now anyway.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that y'all want to kind of think through this process.
Yeah.
I don't know that I did as good a job last time presenting what the concerns were. I think Ms. Garris and I talked, and we really have an understanding of where we're going, and so I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
If that's how y'all decide you want us to do it.
Okay, I don't know procedurally what to do when we're in the middle of a vote and somebody wants, and we table this. Ms. Hill, can you help?
Someone has to motion to table.
So I make a motion to table second reading of policy GCF, professional staff hiring, and GCFR administrative rule as presented by administration.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second that. Okay.
All right. All in favor of tabling policy GCF and GCFR, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right.
So from my perspective, Madam Chair, I'm going to bring this same policy back to you next month, and y'all be ready to have a conversation about it, and if you want to amend it, you would do it at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And it would be helpful if perhaps we could have amendments. If anyone has amendments, if you could share them with Mr. Stacy so that he can include that in what is sent to us, that would be very helpful. Okay.
Right. So during first reading, I brought that up. That was one of the suggestions that I made. And Mr. Stacy and I went through all the suggestions I made, and then he changed a few things. And then there were only 2 things that he thought the board needed to have some input into before he changed it. So that, yeah, that was a discussion during first reading.